Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm gamesplaining Back to the Future. Back to the Future is a 2 to 4 player game based on the ever popular IP of Back to the Future movies. That is a red flag for me straight away. I tend to have an aversion to games that use a movie IP or a very popular IP. My experience of them is not great. It's, as a general rule, they're games that are kind of have this IP tacked onto them just out there to sell more copies. I think that Back to the Future is not quite one of them. It feels like a game that has been designed by a gamer for gamers using this IP, and I actually wonder if that's a bit of a problem, because gamers, and this has been my experience with other games I talk to, tend to steer clear of a majority of IP games, with a few possible exceptions of Star Wars, Firefly, maybe some of the Star Trek games. But for the most part, we have a tendency to avoid IP-heavy games. People who are going to buy Back to the Future are generally going to be Back to the Future fans, not necessarily gamers. And honestly, this game was given to me by a Back to the Future fan, huge, mega fan of the movies, and he gave it to me saying, I had a look at this game, I tried to play it, it was junk, I couldn't work it out, I hate it, take it away from me. So I said, look, I'll have a play of it, I'll get my head around it, I'll gamesplain it for you, and then we'll have a game, and then you can make a decision if you like it or not. I fear that games that use gamer mechanisms that are not something like Carcassonne or Ticket to Ride, the gateway games. This is a step above gateway, so it's a little bit harder for a non-gamer to get their head around to get it playing, and so they look and go, oh, that's junk, I don't like it, and I'm making the wording a little bit easier so I can keep my G rating. But I don't know if this game is junk. I think that the game is a gamer's game that plays okay. I don't think it's a spectacular game, to be fair, but I think it's a game that plays okay. A large part of the idea of this game is there's 3 time zones or time periods which exist in the movie, so 1955, 1985, 2015, and you have a DeLorean and you're moving the DeLorean, everyone moves the same DeLorean back and forth through those time periods, and you have to get the DeLorean into the right time period to be able to play a character. You need to get a character played in that time period to have an event happen, and you need to get a certain group of characters on the event in the time period to be able to actually claim that event. And when you claim the event, you get points. But in around that, there's a whole bunch of other little finicky things. So you need to pay power, which the power looks like a flux capacitor, which is the little 3-lined thing. And you need to pay 3 power from the cards in your hand to be able to move the DeLorean. The cards in your hand are the character cards, which you need to put down. In order to be able to play a character card from your hand, you need to have selected the actual character, which has its own special ability, at the beginning of your turn, and you need the DeLorean in the right year. And then once you do that, there's a couple of little clocks on each of the character cards, so you need to then pay the time from the other character cards that are in your hand to be able to play this. So if there's 2 time on this card, I've got to find cards that have 2 time or add up to 2 time or more in my hand and put them in a discard pile. And then depending what year I'm in, I need to put cards down into what's called the ripple stack or ripple effects space. And any card that goes into that ripple stack is points at the end of the game. So there's a number of points on the bottom of each card. And if you're in 1955, you're going to have to pay 2 cards into that ripple stack. If you're in 1985, you pay 1. If you're in 2015, you don't pay any ripple. And so cards are a multiple use. And look, gamers have their head around that because of games like Race for the Galaxy, where there's multi-use cards. Like, cards are something, depending on what you're using them for, they're going to be something different. Getting your head around that as a non-gamer is really hard. Explaining that to non-gamers is not the easiest of things either. But there's all these elements that you need to be aware of, you need to keep track of. And honestly, I think it just makes the game clunky. And I can't find a better word for it. It's just clunky. It's a clunky game. I can see what they're trying to do. I can see the mechanisms they're trying to make happen. But it needs some form of streamlining. I'm not saying that it's a bad game, because it's not. you can play it and you can probably have some fun playing it. And I found a real challenge when I was playing this game, but it's just clunky. The other element that really caught me out is that if the DeLorean is in 1955, you don't get to draw any more cards. So if I've got a hand of 4 cards, I've managed to somehow play a card in 1955, which has cost me another 2 cards to the Ripple, and might have cost me the other card to the discard pile. I now have no cards. I'm in 1955, I have no cards. I'm not able to draw any more cards. That's really concerning to me, because it means that my next turn I have to use... There's one character that allows me to pick up a card. There's another character that allows me to steal a card. I have to use one of those 2 in my next turn, and that'll give me 1 card. I may find that I have to do that a few times, or I have to take Doc, which will move the DeLorean to 2015, in which I can draw 2 cards. But I'm going to have to do that a few times to draw my hand back up to a point where I can actually do something. I really dislike the amount of downtime that forces onto players. And it gets really super annoying because you're stuck there not able to do anything. And look, some people really like I'm not going to be able to do everything I want. And I love when that happens, but when you're not able to do anything because you've got to build your hand back up, I find that frustrating and annoying, and it's unnecessary. It's probably actually more appropriate. If you were able to at least grab 1 card in 1955, maybe grab 2 in 85 and 3 in 2015, then at least you're getting something back. You're able to build your deck up no matter what time period you're in. Look, that's just a really quick, off my head, something I hadn't even thought about until I'm talking to you guys right now, idea that might have just fixed that problem for me, but it's a problem. Look, I think that this is not a great game. I've said this already. I don't think it's a awful game, but it's not great. I personally won't be bothering to spend any money. If my friend, once we've played it, decides he doesn't want it and wants to give it to me, then sure, I'll add it to my stack of games, and look, it might come out once. But Back to the Future, I can't recommend it. I would suggest have a play if someone else has bought it. If you've got a friend who loves Back to the Future, and they happen to have a copy, go and play it with them so they can get their head around it, so that they can enjoy their Back to the Future-ness. Yeah, look, I'm going to leave that there. I hope that this gives you an idea of Back to the Future, the game. I applaud the efforts of the designers to try and make a game with an IP that is for gamers. I do applaud that. I hope that more of that happens so we get out of this headspace of I'm not going to touch an IP game, but I think in order for that to happen, the games are just going to need to be way more streamlined and easily moved through for them to be able to catch a populace following, or even a good size following from games. If you've got any games that you wish to be gamesplaying, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter to see what games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.